Why is Jungkook being called the king among kings? BTS's King's Road formation ignites a fierce global debate. Why did one name immediately dominate the conversation the moment rumors spread that BTS would march along King's Road? Why did timelines freeze, fan theories explode, and debates turn unexpectedly intense, not over the comeback date, not over the title track, but over where Jungkook might stand? And why does a single position on a historic royal path suddenly feel like a declaration of power, hierarchy, and symbolism that could redefine BTS's long-awaited return? When news broke that BTS is planning a monumental opening for their Arirang comeback show by lining up along the legendary route known as King's Road, the reaction was instant and visceral. This was not just another comeback teaser. This was history, heritage, and spectacle colliding in real time. King's Road, stretching from Gyeongmun through Hunyamun and Gwanghwamun to Woldae, is not an ordinary path. It is the road once walked by kings before addressing their people. And now, 7 global superstars are rumored to step onto it together. But almost immediately, public attention narrowed, laser-focused on one figure: Jungkook. Why Jungkook? Why now? And why has his potential position sparked such heated speculation that some fans are calling him the youngest king, others the visual axis of Arirang, and still others something even bigger, the king among kings? The silence from HYBE has only intensified the fire. As details remain unconfirmed, theories have multiplied at a speed that mirrors BTS's own cultural impact. Fans are no longer just asking if BTS will march King's Road. They are asking how, who leads, who stands at the center, who occupies the most symbolically charged point of the route, and what does that choice say about the narrative BTS is about to unleash upon the world? In the middle of all these questions stands Jungkook, quiet, unreadable, and more talked about than ever. King's Road is not merely a filming location. Historically, it was the route reserved exclusively for the monarch's procession toward Woldae, the elevated platform where the king directly communicated with the people. Built in 1866, destroyed during Japanese occupation in 1923, and restored in 2023, exactly a century later, Woldae itself has become a symbol of restoration, legacy, and reclaimed identity. That context alone transforms BTS's rumored plan into something far bigger than choreography. This is why fans are calling it a visual metaphor for the return of the king of K-pop. But within that grand metaphor, Jungkook's potential placement has become the most contested detail. On social media, speculation ranges from restrained analysis to near-mythic storytelling. Some argue that Jungkook, as the youngest member, represents continuity, the bridge between BTS's past and future. Others insist that his unmatched global recognition, vocal dominance, and performance versatility make him the natural focal point of any large-scale visual narrative. A growing number of fans suggest something bolder, that placing Jungkook at the most strategic point on King's Road would be a deliberate statement that BTS is redefining leadership itself, not by age or title, but by presence. Is Jungkook being positioned as the symbolic young king of BTS, or is he simply the visual epicenter around which the rest of the group's power radiates? The debate is not happening in a vacuum. Since completing military service, anticipation for BTS's return has reached levels rarely seen in global pop culture. The album Arirang, already available for pre-save on major platforms like Spotify, carries a name loaded with national significance. Arirang is not just a song, it is a symbol of Korean identity, resilience, and collective memory. Pairing that title with King's Road imagery suggests an intentional blending of modern global influence with deep historical roots. And in that blend, Jungkook's role feels crucial. Observers note that Jungkook has long occupied a unique position within BTS. As the youngest member, he entered the group as a prodigy, growing up in front of the world's eyes. Over the years, his image evolved from talented matinee to global icon, capable of commanding stadiums alone, yet always returning to the group dynamic that defines BTS. That duality, individual star power balanced with collective loyalty, may be exactly why fans see him as central to the Arirang narrative. But is this interpretation romanticizing coincidence, or decoding a carefully planned message? HYBE's refusal to clarify details has only deepened the intrigue. No official statement has confirmed formation order, camera angles, or even whether the march will be fully live or partially pre-recorded. That silence has become fuel. In online spaces, every past BTS performance is being dissected, every symbolic choice reanalyzed, every Jungkook-centric moment reframed as potential foreshadowing. On X, formerly Twitter, posts originating from accounts like @BTS_Charts_Daily have driven the conversation into overdrive. Comments range from awe to speculation to outright declaration. "This is the comeback of the century," one fan wrote. Another declared, "Imagine them walking the King's Road because they are the Kings." And increasingly, fans are adding a specific twist. Jungkook at the center would change everything. Why does it matter so much? Because BTS has never treated staging as random. From award show formations to music video symbolism, every placement has historically carried meaning. Fans remember how center positions have been used not to elevate one member above the rest, but to tell a story sometimes rotating, sometimes fixed, always intentional. If Jungkook stands at the most symbolically charged point of King's Road, it would not necessarily crown him above the others. Instead, it could frame him as the axis of movement, the point through which history, present, and future converge. In royal processions, the king was not always at the front. Sometimes the power lay in the position that commanded the eye, not the order of steps. That nuance has fueled some of the most intense debates. Is leadership about who walks first, or who anchors the visual narrative? Is Jungkook being framed as a ruler or as the embodiment of BTS's evolution? There is also the undeniable reality of global perception. Jungkook's solo activities have expanded BTS's reach into new demographics, particularly in Western markets. His voice, face, and name are instantly recognizable, even beyond traditional K-pop audiences. Positioning him strategically during a globally broadcast comeback show could be a calculated move to capture immediate attention, drawing viewers in before revealing the full collective power of BTS. Yet, fans are quick to defend the group's unity. Many argue that labeling Jungkook as king among kings does not diminish RM's leadership, Jin's symbolism as the eldest returning from service, or the creative authority of Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, and V. Instead, they see it as a layered narrative, where each member embodies a different facet of kingship: wisdom, artistry, charisma, emotional resonance, with Jungkook representing vitality and continuity. This layered interpretation aligns perfectly with BTS's storytelling tradition. Still, the question lingers: why has this particular speculation struck such a nerve? Part of the answer lies in timing. The comeback show, BTS Arirang, scheduled to air on the 20th of March 2026 at 13 KST, marks not just a musical return, but a cultural moment. BTS is re-emerging after military hiatus into a world that has changed politically, socially, and artistically. Their decision to step onto King's Road feels like a reclaiming of space, a visual declaration that they are not simply returning artists, but cultural leaders. In that context, Jungkook's potential placement becomes symbolic of generational transition. He is young enough to represent the future, experienced enough to embody the past, and influential enough to command the present. Is that why the title King Among Kings feels strangely fitting to so many fans? The emotional charge surrounding this debate cannot be ignored. For armies who waited years through enlistments, silence, and uncertainty, every detail of this comeback feels personal. The idea of BTS walking a road once reserved for royalty taps into pride, not just fandom pride, but national and cultural pride. Seeing Jungkook potentially positioned at the heart of that image amplifies those emotions, turning speculation into something closer to collective storytelling. And yet, nothing is confirmed. That uncertainty is perhaps the most powerful element of all. HYBE's silence functions almost like a dramatic pause, allowing anticipation to swell to its maximum. Each day without clarification invites new interpretations, new theories, new emotional investments. By the time the first official footage drops, the audience will not be passive viewers, they will be participants, primed by weeks of debate and expectation. So, when the cameras finally roll on King's Road, when BTS steps into frame against centuries of history, the world will not just be watching a comeback. It will be watching the resolution of a question that has gripped millions. Where will Jungkook stand? And when he does, will the image confirm the whispers that he is being framed not just as a member of BTS, but as the symbolic heart of their return? Or will it subvert expectations entirely, reminding everyone that BTS's greatest power has always been the way they redefine hierarchy itself? Until then, the title lingers in the air, half myth, half provocation, the king among kings. And perhaps that is exactly the point. And as the days pass with no clarification from HYBE, the silence itself has begun to feel intentional, almost theatrical, as if the absence of answers is part of the narrative being built around Arirang. In the vacuum of official confirmation, imagination has taken control. And Jungkook's name continues to surface at the center of every theory, every debate, every emotionally charged post that asks the same question in 100 different ways. What is BTS trying to say through him this time? Because this is not the first time Jungkook's position has sparked discussion, longtime followers remember how often he has been placed at moments of transition, opening verses that set the tone, closing shots that linger, center frames that feel less like favoritism and more like punctuation. Jungkook has frequently been used as the visual and emotional bridge, the figure who pulls the audience into the story before handing it back to the group as a whole. On King's Road, a path historically designed to draw the eye toward authority, that kind of role suddenly carries monumental weight. Some fans have begun to reframe the debate entirely. Instead of asking whether Jungkook is being elevated above the others, they ask whether he is being used as the lens through which the world is meant to view BTS's return. In royal processions of the past, symbolism mattered more than literal rank. The placement of a figure could signify hope, renewal, or continuity rather than dominance. Seen through that lens, Jungkook's rumored strategic position becomes less about hierarchy and more about storytelling. And storytelling has always been BTS's true kingdom. The choice of King's Road itself reinforces this idea. This is not a modern stage built for spectacle. It is a restored historical route heavy with memory. Wolde, the destination of the procession, was once a place where the king stood elevated but exposed, facing the people directly. There were no filters there, no distance, no illusion. If BTS is choosing this location to open their comeback show, the implication is clear. This return is meant to be confrontational in its honesty, monumental in its symbolism, and deeply rooted in identity. So where does Jungkook fit into that picture? Some cultural commentators suggest that Jungkook embodies the idea of the people's king more than any other member, not because of age or title, but because of accessibility. His image has often been framed as relatable, despite immense fame, emotionally open, yet commanding, placing him at the heart of a procession that historically symbolized communication between ruler and people could be a deliberate echo of that role. Others point out that Jungkook's global recognition makes him a narrative anchor for international audiences who may not immediately grasp the historical weight of King's Road. For viewers unfamiliar with Joseon-era symbolism, Jungkook's presence could serve as an entry point, drawing attention first, then leading the eye outward to the rest of the group and the broader meaning of the scene. In that sense, he becomes a translator between cultures, between eras, between spectacle and substance. Still, not everyone agrees, and that disagreement is precisely what has turned this topic into a flashpoint. Some fans argue passionately that focusing too much on Jungkook risks overshadowing the collective message of BTS's return. They remind others that Arirang is a name that implies unity, shared sorrow, shared resilience. Arirang is sung not by soloists, but by voices together. From that perspective, any narrative that elevates one member too strongly feels contradictory to the very symbol BTS is invoking. Yet even within that counter-argument, Jungkook's name refuses to disappear, because the debate itself reflects a deeper truth. Jungkook's image has become inseparable from BTS's public identity. Whether as center, vocalist, performer, or symbol of growth, he occupies a space that is both individual and collective at once. That duality is uncomfortable for some, compelling for others, and irresistible to audiences hungry for meaning. Media outlets have begun to take notice of this tension. Headlines no longer simply announce BTS's planned King's Road appearance. They frame it as a cultural event layered with symbolism, controversy, and expectation. Analysts speculate openly about formation choices, camera choreography, and the political resonance of using a restored royal route in a post-military comeback era. And in nearly every analysis, Jungkook appears as a focal point, sometimes explicitly named, sometimes implied through phrases like the youngest global icon or the visual center fans can't stop talking about. What makes this moment especially volatile is timing. BTS is returning at a moment when the K-pop industry itself is being questioned about longevity, leadership, and what it means to be at the top in a rapidly shifting global landscape. By stepping onto King's Road, BTS is not just staging a comeback, they are inserting themselves into a conversation about cultural authority. And Jungkook, whether intentionally or not, has become the human symbol through which that authority is being debated. Is he the face of a new era where leadership is fluid rather than fixed? Is he proof that kingship can be shared, rotated, redefined? Or is the entire debate a mirror reflecting the audience's own need to assign meaning where none has yet been confirmed? The most striking aspect of all this is how little Jungkook himself